Hey there, welcome back to the Temple of the Holy Beard. I'm Pastor Dave. Thanks for tuning in. Today is Thursday, October 13th, 2022, and this is another episode of News That's Not in the News. Bear with me here. My lighting's not so good. I'm kind of having trouble reading my notes, but stick with me till the end because I got a good one that I think you're not gonna want to miss. This first one comes from townhall.com, titled "A Ticking Time Bomb." Florida home that survived the hurricane burns to the ground from EV. Florida Chief Financial Officer Jimmy Patronis warned that hurricane-damaged electric vehicles may be ticking time bombs. We've talked about this before, as batteries corrode from the saltwater storm surge. The lithium batteries are not only catching fire, but proving to be a nightmare to put out. We've talked about that. Burning at extremely high temperatures and often reigniting several times. As State Fire Marshal, Patronis is asking for immediate guidance from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and help directly from the car manufacturers. In a letter to NHTSA last week, he said, on October 6th, I joined North Collier Fire Rescue to assess response activities related to Hurricane Ian and saw with my own eyes an EV continuously ignite and continually reignite as fire teams doused the vehicle with tens of thousands of gallons of water. Honestly, I think tens of thousands is a little excessive, but it does take a lot of water. Anyway, he said, subsequently, I was informed by the fire department that the vehicle once again reignited when it was being loaded onto the tow truck. Based on my conversation with area firefighters, this is not an isolated incident. As you can appreciate, I am concerned that we have a ticking time bomb on our hands. That's what he said to the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. We've talked about this before in other videos, is that this issue with the batteries is kind of a known issue. Now, a typical fire truck holds about 200 gallons of water. Typical fire truck. A tanker truck, those are the big water trucks that the fire department has. They hold about 400 gallons of water. 400 gallons. Now, the typical EV is taking anywhere from 8 to 10,000 gallons of water to put it out. So he's probably right with the thousands of gallons. Anyway, Tesla Model S, right there in the owner's manual, says it takes about 8,000 gallons to put it out if it catches on fire. Now, the 10,000 comes from the Firefighters Organization of America, something like that, based on their own research. Now, think about that. If a big tanker truck holds 400 gallons, where are they going to get 8,000 from? That thing better catch on fire next to a lake or a fire hydrant or something. Otherwise, honestly, the only thing they can really do is try to keep it from spreading to other things. Keep the ground around it wet so we don't have a wildfire. But in this case, the car is parked in the garage. It got flooded from the hurricane, and it ignited inside the garage and burnt the whole house down. Think about that. Then, while they're putting the house out, they're fighting with the car. Let me know your comments below. Okay, but going on. In a video posted to social media, Patronis said 2 homes burned down in one night alone due to an immobilized electric vehicle catching on fire. He tweeted saying, electric vehicles are catching on fire due to electrical system failure caused by a saltwater storm surge from Hurricane Ian, catching homes on fire, endangering first responders and Florida families. I'm calling on EV companies to partner with us to find solutions. We must take action. Patronis also mentioned that the gases are toxic and asked NHTSA for guidance on whether the gas masks and personal protective equipment that firefighters wear regularly adequately protects the teams. So think about that. Not only are they fighting with this car, trying to put the car fire out, but the fumes that are coming off of that could be deadly. And we don't know at this time if they're suits are sufficient to protect them. Think about that. He says if an EV catches fire, there's not a lot fire teams can do. The second you stop dousing an EV with water, it flames up again. If a compromised EV was left in a garage for Hurricane Ian, the car burns, and so does the house. How many EVs were left behind? How many do you think are compromised? I'm not going to go on with this, but you get the idea. That's pretty ridiculous. If you've got an EV, suggestion that I have is don't park it in your garage. Keep it out on the street. At least, leave a little bit of distance between your car and your house. Try to protect yourself as best as possible. Keep a fire extinguisher in the car. It's not a bad idea to have it handy. Honestly, it's not going to do much, but it might help you to help yourself. It might help you get out of there. If you drive an EV and that thing catches on fire, pull to the side of the road, grab what you can grab and get the heck out of there. Just stand back and let that thing burn, because there's not a whole lot you can do about it. The insurance, the fire department at this point is just trying to protect property around it. Moving on. This next one comes from military.com, titled, Ukraine's allies can't get arms fast enough as stockpiles shrink. Now, if you didn't know, there's still a war going on in Ukraine. With Russia's war in Ukraine in its 8th month, some European nations have funneled weapons to Kiev, are running low, and it could take years for defense contractors to meet the shortfall. It could take years for them to restore their own stockpile of what they've already given out. Keep that in mind. Goes on to say, NATO states are urging companies to boost production to help them restock, to both resupply Ukraine and reinforce their own stores in a climate of heightened tensions. Ukraine's allies have already sent billions of dollars in arms, munitions, and equipment since Russia invaded in February. That's putting pressure on weapon and ammunition stockpiles. I don't remember if I did the video or not, but I've definitely got the notes for it, analyzing some of the stockpiles, what we can get information from. Most countries are saying that they're okay. Some countries are saying that they're below the comfortable level. I think some of them are telling you what they think you won't want to hear so you don't stress out. Anyway, Ukraine will probably need military support for years to come, but it will be a struggle to quickly expand manufacturing after decades of limited orders and the current supply chain issues. Keep in mind, a lot of these manufacturing plants run off of natural gas or other petroleum products that are hard to get a hold of right now, especially if you're in Europe. So keep in mind, there are tensions not only in Ukraine and in Europe in the West right now, but there's also a lot of tensions in the East with China, Taiwan, North Korea, yada, yada, yada. There's a lot going on in the world. Those are just two major points that have attention from North America, but there are numerous countries. It's a long list of countries right now that are at each other's throats. So this is not a time when we want to be running low on our defensive measures. These shortage should be taken seriously and could leave the Allies in a bind if things flare up in other areas. There are some analysts that are questioning whether the Ukraine war is intended to dwindle down the stocks of the Allied countries to leave us less defensible when stuff spins up in other areas. And don't forget, there are personnel shortages in most of the Allied militaries that we get information from, including the U.S. Army, whose recruiting shortfalls have been running about 25% below their goals. So it's something we need to keep an eye on, stuff we need to take seriously. Okay, next article comes from 1440 Media. Next couple of articles, anyway. I'm not going to go into too much detail. I'm going to try to keep this a little bit on the short side. But, hey, congratulations to anybody who is on this side of the fence. The FDA has approved an updated version of the Moderna COVID booster shot for ages 6 and older, and Pfizer BioNTech booster shot for ages 5 and older. So if that's your thing, both target the original coronavirus strain and the BA.4, BA.5 Omicron strains. Meanwhile, unbiased experts recommend shots only for 60 and above, given the the adverse reactions, and saying that the risks outweigh the benefit for younger, healthy individuals. So I suggest doing your own research before you volunteer yourself. Next article, again, comes from 1440 Media. Just a headline, U.S. stock markets close lower again. The S&P 500 closed lower for the 6th day in a row. Personal note, don't look at your 401k. Just leave it be. Not a financial advisor, but hopefully it'll increase again here soon, and you might be able to make some shifts if you need to. If you have stocks, you should really start watching that and thinking about jumping ship at some point. It's going to get a heck of a lot worse before it gets any better. The alternative is to just ride it out. Again, I'm not a financial advisor. This isn't financial advice. You do what you think is best for you. But it can only go so low before it comes back up, right? Hopefully. Moving on. The average 30-year mortgage interest rate has increased to a 15-year high of 6.81%, according to the Mortgage Bankers Association. So, hopefully, if you're planning on buying a house, you've already bought it. If you haven't bought it yet, and you're going to get in on this higher interest rate, well, just plan on refinancing when the rates go back down, when everything calms down in the future. Because anybody who's got a variable interest rate, look forward to your payments going up accordingly. Hopefully you have a fixed interest rate and that won't affect you. Again, I'm not a financial advisor. I'm just letting you know what's going on, news that's not in the news. Moving on. Here's a good one. No child left behind, right? The average ACT score for 2022 high school graduates dropped to 19.8 out of 36. The lowest it's been since 1991. The average percentage of graduates who took the ACT and failed to meet benchmarks in English, reading, science, and math rose to 42%. So 42% of people who took the ACT in 2022 failed in at least one of those areas. Okay, the good news. On to the good news. If you or somebody you know is retiree or disabled on Social Security, the Social Security Administration will announce today the annual cost of living increase that will affect more than 70 million Americans. That's a lot of people. The increase is estimated to be 8.7%, which is the largest increase since 1991. In comparison, the 2022 increase was 5.9%, which is still pretty high. And the average increase is 1.4%, which doesn't keep up with normal inflation. So it kind of gives you an idea of how bad things are right now. If the 2022 increase back in January was 5.9%, and the increase that they're expected to announce is 8.7 for 2023, yeah, things getting expensive. The number is calculated using the Consumer Price Index for urban wage earners and clerical workers from July through September. The 8.7% projection is based on data from July and August, because September's data are due today. It hadn't been announced yet as of the time this data came out. Another factor affecting the boost would be September's 0.75% interest rate increase. So that's another thing that's affecting your spending, is the interest rates are going up and up and up. A large benefit amount can maintain buying power in the face of rising inflation. However, as inflation goes up, things are just going to keep rising. So we'll see how it goes. Here's a tidbit for you. About a quarter of Americans, mostly retirees, receive Social Security benefits. About a quarter of Americans. The current projected depletion date for Social Security is 2035. Now, I've been hearing about this Social Security depletion for many, many years, and that date kind of keeps shifting. Unfortunately, it seems like it keeps getting closer. But what that means, if you're younger and you're not familiar with Social Security and the history around that, is essentially there are more people more people taken out of Social Security than there are putting in it. So the balance doesn't keep up. Think about it like this: if you're spending more money, you're taking more money out of your bank account than what you're putting in. Even though at one point you might have been making really good money and you're putting a lot of money in it, and then over time you're not making as much money, and what you need you take out of your savings. Instead of adjusting, you just take out of your savings. Eventually you're not going to have any savings left, and that's what's happening here. This article referred to it as a Social Security trust fund. It's actually an insurance account, is the way it should be looked at. If you're working, a portion of your wages goes into Social Security, ideally to support you when you need it. However, the amount you put in doesn't have your name on it. It goes into a bowl. It goes into a fund that is there and drawn from for everybody who needs it now. And so we've had for many, many years more people taken out of it than what are putting in. And then there have been times where money has been taken out of Social Security and used for other purposes. So if you are younger and you plan on retiring someday, or you want to retire someday, you really, really, really need to set your own money aside to support yourself. Because there have been many people that have been dependent on these government funds, and at some point what's going to happen is we have less and less people that are working. Every year there are less people working than there needs to be. And with less people working, it means there's less people putting into these social funds, which means there's going to be less money to take out of those funds when people need it. So long story short, what that means is you need to be self-sufficient. You need to be able to take care of yourself one way or another. Maybe you can write a book and keep making money off it after you retire. Maybe you have a side job or something like that. But while you're working right now, any extra money that you have, put it away in something that's gonna be there for you when you retire. Otherwise, there's a really good chance that when you go to retire, you may not be able to afford to. And a perfect example is right now with this inflation that I just talked about, there are a lot of people that were planning to retire, or they're planning to retire soon, or they had recently retired, and they're not able to. They can't afford to not work. And so they're either working longer than they want to, or they're going back to work, because they're, you got to be able to eat. You got to be able to pay your bills. Unfortunately, even though you don't have any money coming in, you still have to pay taxes. You still have to pay for things. So you got to have money somehow. So anyway, rambling on. I could do a whole video about that, but I'm not going to do that right now. I'm trying not to anyway. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please let me know in the comment section below. Hit that like button, that thumbs up like button, show your support. And if you're not subscribed already, hit that subscribe button and that notification bell to stay informed. If you have any friends, family members, or followers that don't enjoy this, as usual, please pass it on. Let's get everybody involved. Again, I hope you've enjoyed this video. I'm Pastor Dave from Temple of the Holy Beard. Stay safe, stay sane, keep learning. Until next time.